The focus of this project will be to assess the effectiveness of dialogic pedagogy in improving engagement in a series of mathematics lessons covering Stage 3 fractions content. Malabar Public School is situated in Sydney's eastern suburbs. Family incomes and mortgage repayments are above average, though this is a recent change. 21% of residents are in social housing, though this proportion has dropped in the past 5 years, with private rental increasing, indicating a process of gentrification. In their Strategic Improvement Plan for 2022, Malabar Public School has outlined aims for improvements in literacy, numeracy, and student wellbeing. They believe a quality teacher demonstrates deep pedagogical knowledge, uses evidence to inform their practice, and is an active part of the school's collaborative learning culture. These teachers also challenge themselves and use critical reflection to improve their practice. The school uses the Positive Behaviour for Learning framework. The Year 6 classroom consists of 28 students with no diagnosed learning disability, a range of capability levels, and each brings a laptop to school. The room can be arranged into different learning spaces to suit lesson needs, though normally consists of rows of tables, each seating 2 students facing the front of the room. The classroom teacher is an assistant principal responsible for behaviour management at the school and motivates students through intrinsic rewards such as lollipops and sports times. Mathematics lessons usually take the form of instructional monologue where individual students with their hands up are selected to give answers. Individual quiet work is prioritised. Disengaged students spend their time drawing or looking out the window and are given verbal instruction to focus on their work. Develop and implement a dialogic pedagogy to increase student engagement in mathematics. Dialogic pedagogy is grounded in social constructivism, which states that learners make knowledge through interacting with the world around them in social ways, and knowledge is created to fit their experience. Dialogic pedagogy aims to construct knowledge from pre-existing epistemological foundations using the power of talk to build student thinking and learning. It recognises that there is a relationship between dialogue and thinking, and that when we start a dialogue with a learner, we are asking them to think. Equally, the close relationship between talk and culture is recognised and can be harnessed to shape an inside a classroom culture. The Me framework will be used to assess student engagement, with the 4 elements of an inside a classroom being sought out as evidence. These elements are a student community of reflection, teacher-inclusive conversation, student self-assessment, and teacher feedback. A dialogic pedagogy aligns closely with these 4 elements as it is fundamentally democratic and aims to share power with students without privileging one voice over another. Student reflection and self-assessment require deep thought that is easily established through conversation, and by allowing them an equal voice, these can be fostered independently among the students. Teacher feedback, given in a dialogue with the students, encourages self-regulation by modelling the process in a participatory setting. Teacher-inclusive conversation is a fundamental aspect of both this pedagogy and an inside a classroom, showing that it is an effective classroom practice in building engagement. My unit of work covers Stage 3 fractions content where students model, compare, order, create, and simplify fractions. The learning experiences aim to move from concrete understanding to abstract knowledge using dialogic pedagogical practices. Small E engagement is created through the variety of experiences presented to the students, which itself has been shown to enhance engagement in mathematics. They include guided inquiry, group work, individual work, oral presentation, class forum, and self-assessment. Motivation is created through clarity of purpose, where learning is contextualized for students and allows for them to establish learning goals. Motivation is also achieved through allowing students a chance to succeed and share joint construction of knowledge through dialogue. The first lesson aims to establish deep and concrete knowledge of fractions through teacher-led class discussion that creates a collective understanding. This knowledge is published in the students' words for students to use in later lessons. The second places students in small groups to jointly construct methods for comparing fractions using problem solving. They then participate in a class forum where reasoning and communication are used to share learning processes. The third requires students to justify their learning so far through individual presentation and create a learning tool for others to gain knowledge of the fractions content. Ethical considerations will be observed by ensuring that all data collected will adhere to the principles of beneficence, confidentiality, and informed consent. Data will be collected from 3 sources during the 3 lessons to establish, through analysis, whether the use of a dialogic pedagogy has increased student engagement. The strategies to collect data are observation of student behaviour, recording of conversation, and student self-assessment. I will observe student behaviour and record instances that display the characteristics indicative of an insider classroom amongst themselves without my prompting. The behaviours that will be recorded are drawn from the 4 aspects of an insider classroom. Instances of these behaviours will be recorded on a tally sheet next to the student's name throughout each lesson when students are completing group work. This will allow me to establish operative large E engagement in the lesson. I will record all student and teacher conversation in the openings of the first and last lesson when the lesson content is introduced and knowledge is being established amongst the class. These recordings will be processed using Flanders interaction analysis categories to record conversations between all in the class and teachers. The recordings are split into 3-second intervals to establish what kind of conversation occurs during each time period. Periods of silence and confusion are also recorded. This will allow me to establish effective or small e engagement during the lesson. At the end of each learning experience, students will assess their own learning in a reflective journal. Here they will respond to prompts drawn from the REAL framework. This qualitative and formative approach will allow me to chart students' learning journey by providing snapshots throughout the course of my action research by encouraging students to engage in deep reflection. Data will be analysed to gauge student engagement in response to the dialogic pedagogical practices I have used in these 3 lessons. Engagement will be quantified through the ME framework to establish the level of effective, operative, and cognitive behaviour. Analysis of the data will aim to determine whether these behaviours are linked to the pedagogical practices I have used in my lessons. In my observations, I'll be looking for students displaying behaviours in line with the insider classroom. Data will be compared throughout the 3 lessons during group tasks to chart growth or reduction in engagement. By recording data for each student, I can get a whole class picture and compare these results with the other data collection strategies to determine which students do not view themselves as insiders. Using Flanders interaction analysis, I aim to visualize classroom interaction that is indicative of high effective engagement in the classroom. This will be achieved through the encoding of interactions between communicators and receivers, with both student and teacher fulfilling this role. With the following categories of talk, further analysis is provided by recording whether it was indirect or direct talk and response or initiation. Teacher talk, student talk, and silence or confusion are encoded on a matrix to establish ratios of their prevalence to indicate level of conversation amongst the students or students and teacher, and therefore their engagement. Higher levels of acceptance of students' ideas, asking questions, and praise are prioritised in the analysis, as these closely align with effective engagement and will lead to an insider classroom. The REAL framework will be used to analyse students' self-assessment of their learning to ascertain their level of engagement in the learning process. This will enable me to gather snapshots of students' learning and engagement in a low-pressure environment where students reflect deeply on their own learning. High levels of engagement will be seen through students' development of confidence, reiteration of lesson content knowledge in their own terms, and relational concept building that is derived through classroom interaction. Levels of motivation can be seen across time through length of student response and increased cognition of the lesson content building through the lessons. Equally, this will allow me to assess their understanding of key concepts which are indicative of engagement. If implemented, the action research project outlined above would have a significant impact on my journey towards the AITSL graduate teacher standards. Equally, implementation of a dialogic pedagogy would improve my practice in teaching mathematics. The progress can be seen in 3 of the teaching standards. 1.2, understanding of how students learn. The fundamental purpose of this research project is to create engaging mathematics lessons for students, which in turn shows my knowledge of the ways in which students learn. Learning occurs through the meeting of high effective, operative, and cognitive engagement with students, and conducting this research would allow me to discern best practice in these areas. 2.1. Content and teaching strategies of the teaching area. Here I have shown an understanding of the teaching strategies that have a high chance of engaging students in mathematics lessons, and importantly a process to determine their success. Critical reflection is an important aspect of all teaching practice if it is to be effective in engaging students for successful learning. Here I aim to offer a variety of learning experiences and give students the opportunity to succeed, as well as outlining a way to judge their effectiveness. 3.5. Use effective classroom communication. A dialogic pedagogy aims to challenge the traditional power structure of a classroom where teacher monologue dominates to impart knowledge to the students. Instead, this power is shared with the students, and the action research I have outlined above aims to judge the effectiveness of doing so in creating engagement.